Hey everyone, Hans here. Hope everyone's doing well. Today I'm gonna make a video about charlatans, and I have my notes ready because it's a bit much in a certain way. Gonna try to mash it all together. Uh, but yeah, charlatans in the white positive sphere, it is an issue. We have not been able to handle it very well thus far because there are still so many of them. Will we ever be rid of all of them? Probably not, but we're gonna do what we can. Everyone less, that is more people safe from them. That's how I look at it. So where to begin? How does the charlatan operate? The patterns that I have seen. Oh yeah, real quickly, narcissists and sociopaths there is overlap there, but I'm talking just about regular charlatans who are in it for money, attention, carnal pleasure, and control. So yeah, just to letting you know that. Power. Uh, so, what is the pattern that I have seen? A charlatan will actually work very hard the first year or so, but then eventually, being the initiator of something, will eventually want other people to do the work for him or her, while he or she sits on his or her ass and just takes in whatever it is that they want that I've just named, or all of it. A good example is for a printing press, you might say, that is set up by one or two guys, and people, you know, people in the sphere go to them and they say, "Hey, oh, you're one of our guys. That's great. Yeah, and I've written a book. Can we make a contract and set something up?" And they will be rubbing their hands and say, "Absolutely, buddy." Now the contract then is filled with all kinds of nonsense, and if you do not have any social power yourself, if you will, or not enough pull as an author, these guys will, they will influence your works, misrepresenting what you actually want to write. If what you write is something they do not like, so there is a certain control and influencing that takes place, siphoning who gets more say than others, sort of a censorship, if you will. I suppose there's that kind of charlatanry as well, the ideological ones. They will also fill in the contract in a way that it all makes sense, but then when the logistics comes down to it, it's like, oh yeah, but you were supposed to get the money, but you can only get the money in the contract via this means or that means, and actually you can't come after me anyways if I don't give it to you, so too bad. That is what a charlatan can operate like. It's not only in printing presses or anything. It's also prevalent in any other way. Truly, people who want to set up farms and try to garner a lot of attention for just doing that, and for them that is enough. And they'll tell you all kinds of stuff that is useful. It will be for the good of the people, etc. And then they just run off with all the wealth that they have garnered, or attention and all of that stuff. It all comes down to themselves being put in a position. They create a position of power for themselves, essentially, and then just make others, earn for them. They, basically parasitic. Typical charlatan is always a parasite, right? That's what makes them charlatans. That's what makes them parasites. So you need to keep your eyes out on that. Are there people who are well-meaning and who do this sort of thing? Of course, and it is sometimes difficult to see the difference. But I hope through this video that we can, as a people, start seeing patterns, and if it evolves from there, maybe we'll be able to differentiate one from the other easier in the future. It has to happen, and these talks need to be had. It's despicable in a way for all of us that we haven't talked about this more and acted on this more. I'm gonna continue. So yeah, egocentric is definitely what they are. It's always about them. That is a pattern you can also always notice. It may be greed, it may be just straight up what is that word? Greed, not lust, something uglier than lust. Well, just complete self-indulgence, essentially, on every level, or multiple levels. And the ideological charlatans, well, they serve their master, whatever that master is, a political organization or a religious one or what have you. The best cure for that is basically don't give anything to people who work for organizations. If you want to support someone, maybe you can find a way to do it yourself. Directly message, rather than have this middleman who... Middleman, that is actually a good one. A lot of charlatans are, middlemen, but not on behalf of others. They just portray themselves that way. The use of, as I mentioned with these organizations, so they'll talk a whole lot about, mythology and all kinds of scholastic works and what have you. And what I can say to that is, question them about obscure stuff if you're interested in it. See if they know, and see if they, and if they do not know, which is always possible. See how they respond to not knowing. Do they respond at all? Do they respond despicably? And if they respond well, just keep doing that for a bit. Why only give them one test? Someone who truly cares will make the effort, by the way. So you're actually improving that person in what he or she wants to do. It's actually good practice all around for anyone. A charlatan won't do too much in that sense necessarily. With a few exceptions. But again, makes it more difficult for them to leech off our people. And that is always welcome. I am happy to contribute in that field. Make it more difficult for charlatans. And defend our own in the process. So yeah, they will work hard in the beginning. Kind of mentioned that. But then eventually it's all about, hey, you do this for me. You do that. Blah, blah, blah. Such and so. Typical. These people are typically also used as for agencies or by agencies without them sometimes even knowing it themselves. They'll get people to say all kinds of stupid things, and then these people get entrapped, or they get money on their Patreon or whatever it's going to be each month from some unknown source, which are then these agencies, and it's like, keep saying the destructive stuff you're saying. And the charlatan will be like, oh, money, what I'm doing it for, blah, blah, blah. And the charlatan happily runs off with that money, continues to basically, sow destruction. Because for the charlatan, it's all about him or herself, or the immediate circle. Which is then for them, first circle is always family, and then second circle is friends. That's a bit of psychological stuff. But well, they will always promote themselves as being wonderful people. They're always the cleanliest, the strongest, the fittest, the most beautiful sometimes, or the most capable, the most scholastic, all of that stuff. The trick is not fall for their self-flattery. Don't fall for flattery in general. It gets you nowhere. They do, of course, tend to falter after a while. And this is specifically, typically in their personal lives, they're also abusive of others. That is something typical I see with a lot of charlatans. I do not know what causes it. Not even necessarily the sociopaths or narcissists, just all of them. It's like, I don't know, they're confronted with their own hideousness, and they, rather than face that about themselves, they just blame others. Very mature. Of course not, but just absolutely deranged behavior. But that's part of it, right? So long as they then have all these possessions, I suppose they can bribe their family and staying around or something like that, lest they die alone and forgotten. You know, you could also just make yourself a better person, improve your own being, but that's hard work, and charlatans, well, they'll work hard for only a short time, not a lifetime. Yeah, usually they take advantage of the desperate and the naive, which is not always mutually inclusive or exclusive, those two. The desperate, well, the best thing we can do there in the white positive sphere is when you see someone in a desperate strain, comfort them and let them know, hey, there are other people that care as well, and we're gonna see things through. We're gonna do the right thing. So calm down, take a breather, and see what you can do. Do not follow anyone. Do not follow any leaders before, at the very minimum, before you're out of that strain, because you're gonna get taken advantage of. Calm yourself down, do the right thing for yourself and for others, and remember why you are here. If you're here because you care about others, you do not need to follow anyone for that. You can do it perfectly by yourself. And if you truly are a natural follower, which are plenty of people, they do exist, you better make sure you pick someone who has already proven him or herself to be excellent people. By action, not by word. Words mean only so much. Action matters far more. For the naive, well, our people is naive. White people are naive. It's how we got where we are in a large part. Not completely. There are many charlatans out there, the self-serving, who do sell our people out, and that has contributed to this mess a lot as well. But I suppose, yeah, the best cure for naivety is just questioning and having the spine to actually question others. Hey, you, Mr. Big Leader there. Why are why are your results so few and pitiful? And then most charlatans will not be able to have that. They will run away. They will leave your question unanswered. They might try to reason with you, but nah, then usually that's dangerous for them, because then they are tending to trip. The absolute ego trippers among them will probably lose their shit out. And that's always good. Show the rest of the world. A good leader has a calm head, right? So if someone of them starts shouting or whatever, well, yeah, could be a giveaway. It doesn't need to be, exposure in the first sentence. You can do it over a while, right? If you're patient. So that could be fun. And have fun with it. Have fun calling people out if you think they're distrustworthy. If they're actually good people, they're more than likely going to give you decent answers. That should be satisfactory. In any other case, if they're charlatans or simply people who do not know what they're doing, then maybe you should stay away from them and should encourage others to stay away from them. It's a sphere. It's everyone working together, right? So do not just focus on your own well-being. That is the first step, but then also pull others with you, away from harm. Yeah, if you know a hornet's nest is like a kilometer down the line or a mile down the line, you're gonna at some point say to people, guys, we're gonna in the direction of a hornet's nest. Let's take a side route. Don't be that selfish person who's just like walking off by himself and everyone else is wondering where did he go, and then they run into the hornet's nest. That's not what a friend does. That's not what a good person would do. At the very least, tell them. And if they're then going to still walk forwards, well, hey, then it's on them, not on you anymore. Okay. Charlatans have no empathy overall, except for a handful, select people, if you will, in their own lives. What more can be said on that? Yeah. That is also a good way, I suppose, to flush flush out charlatans, ask them questions where they should be able to reply with empathy. And then if they do not, many of these charlatans will fall for it. There are some very clever ones who have prepared themselves for that, but many of them not really. So again, that is a help. Yeah, passing themselves off as your buddy. It's also something typical. I mean, how else are they going to get you to lower your defenses? You're such a good friend. You're such a go-getter. And then at the same time, like their hand slips in your wallet. Typical trick to fool the naive. Oh, and as a naive person, this whole thing where you might see or hear something upsetting, it's like, wow, that was a bit weird, but that maybe he's just having a bad day, blah blah blah. No, call it out. Talk to it among others first if you have to. Like if some guy, some leader, whatever, says something out of the blue that's absolutely nuts, call them out, or get others to talk to others and say, hey, did you guys hear that too? That's a bit weird, isn't it? We need to do that as a sphere. We need to start getting together in that sense. And it is okay. I am in a friends group, and we went through that. All of us sitting there with the same questions. It's like these two guys are they keep saying just the most weird stuff. Like in the beginning it wasn't there, but like when time progresses it just gets more and more like even insane, like actually deranged stuff. And we started, at some point it got to a confrontation. And suddenly we realized among one another, we were all thinking the same thing for months. Just keep on taking the abuse and keep being taken advantage of these charlatans. I mean, now I'm talking about really a narcissist and his minion. Yeah. It was fucked up, but once we called it out, within the span of maybe 10 minutes, Charlatan was out of there with his minion. It's how you resolve these things. It truly is. It seems a bit uncomfortable because that's just, most of us have never done that before. And we really want to have friends. We want to get along. But you cannot let that get in the way of calling people out. You will have friends and you will get along, but it has to be through a process of refining, I suppose. I'm not sure if that's the correct term. It basically comes down to, in the end, when most of these charlatans and their minions when they have left, when they realize the white positive sphere, there is nothing to be had here, we're out of here, we are going to be left with, for most part, good people. Even if you can't necessarily stand them, personality-wise, at heart he may just be still a good person. Now, one guy may like hockey, the other guy may like basketball. Whatever. If the one guy wants to hockey, the other guy wants to basketball, and they're fighting each other over it, but both still know of each other, yeah, still a good guy actually, or a good girl. And that is where we should go. But that takes time. Takes a bit of courage actually. And these charlatans, we will never be 100% rid of them. It is a continuous thing you need to do, because every new generation has types like that. That is something you teach your children as well. And now I am. The children in my life, they learn these lessons. They have not yet had to use them, but hey. I know I have. Worked for me. That's also why I make these videos, to make it increasingly more difficult for these scum to take advantage of a people in distress, in pain, and at the same time defending that people. Okay, next bit, because I'm kind of running out of time. So lack of empathy is a big one. Again, even a regular charlatan, may have empathy, but only for a few. will happily screw over the rest of the world, as long as he or she herself is him or herself is pleased with life. Needs to be called out. Oh, and their blind followers? Yeah, well, let these blind fools then be led to the cliff, I suppose. The cliff's edge. It's their own fault. Oh yeah, by the way, as far as blind followers go, whatever the charlatan does wrong, blind followers are responsible for it too. And be sure to remind them of that, I suppose. Right? If you just walk along with someone, you're also responsible for whatever mishaps they do. A good follower, if you are a natural follower, follows a person that is decent, does the right thing. Very important. If you need to be told what to do, then at least make sure you get it from decent people. Okay. Well, yeah, and the final point that I've written down is they will use the truth for their own advantages, right? Great example. Do I name the name? You know what? I'm not going to. I'm going to let people think about this for themselves a little bit. Oh, and coming back to the point earlier with the press. Yeah, talking about the white positive sphere. So hint, guys. Okay. All right. Final point. England. A guy rises out of the ether, what have you, and becomes rather well known. He becomes rather well known. He garners a lot of attention. He is considered to be a hero, a good man, someone who stands up for the people, and yeah, everyone started following him over there. And at some point, this guy, whoops, at some point this guy was going to get money together. Everyone gives your monies to the cause, the guy's cause. And it had to do with the war, the anti-white rape gangs in England, especially in certain places. This guy was going to be the head, if you will, of the collection of money, so these girls could have, or not necessarily only girls, I think, could have lawyers, so basically lawful support, could have maybe even medical support, treatment, and would have, the social support of the people. All of that went nowhere. Went into the guy's pocket, or I suppose maybe even went to the guy's master. But the guy himself, clean shaven, he's physically fit, etc., etc. And yet at the end of the day, was just a charlatan. Taking advantage of yet that same hurt people. Taking advantage specifically in the most hideous way possible. Just taking advantage of children hurt, women hurt in ways that well, what I'm getting at is, sorry, it always makes me emotional when I think about stuff like that. It saddens me and it angers me. It really does. Yeah, why shouldn't it, right? But there is a good example of a great, capable charlatan, isn't it? And now what about those well-meaning people that follow them? At their time, their money, their efforts taken away from them in their naivety, their desperation. What good would these people have accomplished if they just had said, you know what, I to myself, I can go reach out to those victims of anti-whiteism. I can go reach out, I can go shake their hands, talk with them, and lend my support. In whichever way. Monetary, maybe, who knows, maybe help them around the house a bit. Keep these anti-white gangs off the streets in one way or the other. Call out politicians, call out local police forces who should be doing that but don't, and doing even the opposite. No, instead it was all just follow this one guy and everything will be alright. And then it didn't. Needs to stop. It happens all the time. This is, and you know, I suppose, do you know who I'm talking about? I think some of you will. You don't need to write it down, let everyone figure it out for himself. But there is a very good example of why I make this video, so it doesn't happen again. And maybe the people who truly do need help, in whatever way it is, will get it. And then realizing this, realizing all these lost years following these fools, these self-serving curs, we will be able to say, or be able to realize how much time we have lost. Time that would have been used to have a better life in the moment now, even if it is so little. But then to be able to realize that and say, well, then we're doing it from this day on. The best time was 5 years ago. The next best time is today, like Andrei Moishev says, or else he says to me at least. I hope this was a bit of a useful video to everyone. It's important that we talk about this more. There's a lot of things that we should talk about more. And it does it does demand that you take up your personal agency as a person who wants to do right by others, right by yourself even. If you want to do the right thing, you do not necessarily need to look at those that want to hurt you. That is to say, how shall one put it? It's not about hurting the anti-white. It's about protecting those of your own. That comes first. Always. It should come first. Because if you care for your own, if you do right by your own, then you are accomplishing what should be accomplished. And when enough of us do that, and when we can properly protect our own, stand by our own, and those who have been hurt, give them the comfort they need to live out the rest of their lives as best as is still possible in the hurt that has been done unto them, you will see a better future. We all will. It's not going to happen from day one. Day one, if you will, happened years ago. We're day X, whatever it's going to be. Which is the process of doing right. And things will go swifter and swifter and swifter the more we work on it. But it takes my effort, it takes your effort, and you don't need anyone to tell you what to do. I do not need that, I doubt you need that. And again, if you truly are one of these people who needs that direction, at least make certain you follow someone who deserves it, by the merit of their actions, and if they turn rotten, you go to the next one, and that be that. Yeah. I think I said what I wanted to say in this video. Broader points that are hopefully eye-opening for many. And, well, hopefully one day I will have people come to me and say, hey, I found a few more things in the patterns we can add in recognizing charlatans, even better. Or Hans, your video is outdated now, which would be even better. I have this for you, or for all of us. And all the charlatan will ever have hold on our people again. Who knows? Wouldn't that be beautiful? And with that said, I think I'm gonna go for a walk, and you all have a good one, and bye bye.